tell you, I didn't know what they were talking about. And at first, I thought, this is bizarre. This makes no sense. But then I started looking for the sustainable medicine documents. And what I discovered, thanks to these magnificent people from Freedom 21 Santa Cruz, was that there was a group of documents that I kept asking for from Geneva, and I finally was able to get them literally from the office of the source in Geneva. And once I read the documents, then I understood that this was a subject that we needed urgently to get to our audiences so that they understand that this is not innocent, that the environmentalism is not simply pertaining to land use, but just as sustainable development is a land grab, it's an attempt to eliminate private property, so sustainable medicine is a body grab. It's an attempt to take from us as individuals the right to decide what shall be done or not done to our bodies.
And in the stuff that you read, what's the ultimate goal?
There is the question. The ultimate goal is to reduce the number of people on the planet. In essence, it is an idea that will ultimately remove people whose quality of life, according to those who are making the decisions, is not worth living. Those who maintain that sustainable medicine is important also maintain that human beings are a burden upon the delicate planet.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. We're back. We're talking to Dr. Madeleine Cosman about the unsustainability of sustainable health. Can you tell us, because I'm sure people who are listening are shocked. It's almost unbelievable. How can they see in today's world those practices being implemented?
Well, for one thing, just go to a hospital and ask whether the flexible bags that are used for, say, blood transfusion or medicine administration, or the flexible tubes, are made with phthalates. And if they want to know how to spell it, it's P-H-T-H-A-L-A-T-E, phthalate. It's this wonderful chemical that's been around for 50 years, and virtually every hospital administrator quakes in his boots whenever you mention the word phthalate, because they most likely have had letters from, or maybe demonstrations from, Greenpeace or the Healthcare Without Harm groups or any of those others I had mentioned, and they know that the phthalates are, that is, the flexible plastics, are in danger. But let me give you a better example. Most people know that in America, as well as other parts of the world, malaria was virtually completely wiped out. How was it wiped out? By one particular magnificent pesticide and chemical, DDT. DDT was virtually safe for people. It harmed virtually no human being. But a particular book in the late 60s called Silent Spring, written by Rachel Carson, was the one book whose basically false research was used by one man, namely William Ruckelshaus of the Environmental Protection Agency, to ban DDT. Ruckelshaus knew that there were, I think it was 93,000 pages, maybe that's not exactly correct. It was some huge number of pages of testimony demonstrating that the DDT chemical was completely safe for human beings. But because of this fallacious, hysterical research done by Rachel Carson, which could not be replicated in a laboratory, but it certainly was replicated by the media in what was in essence a hysterical campaign to eliminate DDT. This one book, one man, and one decision of the EPA in 1972 banned the manufacture and the sale of DDT. Well, DDT is one of the only ways to eliminate the mosquitoes that carry malaria. And there's a wonderful book by one of the other speakers at the Reno event, the Freedom 21 event, and that is Paul Dreesen, and that is called Eco-Imperialism, Green Power and Black Death. And what Paul has brilliantly proved is that...
Hold on just a second. We'll finish that thought right after this break. I'm sorry. Oh, these breaks are killing me. I'm just glued to every word, and then we have to break. But we're back. We were talking with Dr. Madeleine Cosman about just junk science and its effect on our health. Please continue.
The attempt to eliminate DDT was highly successful. And I tend to refer to this as the silent spring technique, because what they did for DDT, they're trying to do for phthalates, they have tried to do for chlorine, and when I say they, I'm referring to those who want sustainable medicine. What they do is follow essentially 7 steps. First, they create an emergency by using false and unscientific data. You called it junk science, and you're absolutely correct. Then, number 2, they release the information to the media before any scientist can review it. Then third, they generate emotion, and the best emotion is hysteria. And people behave like lunatics, worrying about the thing, whatever it is, in this instance, DDT. Then fourth, they formulate a government plan to ban the chemical. Then they coerce Congress to execute the ban. Then they intimidate the industry to withdraw the product. And then, finally, they bully people into rejecting the product, and that's what happened with DDT, and that's what they're trying to do with the phthalates. Well, if you contemplate what is happening in Africa now, recognize that there are 500 million people who in Africa contract malaria, and of these, about 2 million die every year. So tell the people in Kenya and Tanzania, tell the people in various countries of Africa that you don't like DDT because it might injure the eggshells of birds. And these people will say, damn you, I want my child to live, I want to live, I don't want to die of malaria, let us have what will prevent malaria and give us treatments which will cure malaria. Now, what is happening is that environmental groups have essentially affected the World Trade Organizations, the World Banks, the European Union, which refuse to make loans to any country or even buy the produce of any country that uses DDT. Well, just to give you an example, South Africa essentially, in a more polite way, said, screw you to those who refused to give them DDT, and they used DDT. They got rid of malaria, about 90% of all malaria in 3 years. Wow. Whereas the neighboring countries, which went along with the environmental ban and do not use DDT, have an increase in malaria. And therefore, if our listeners want to know how sustainable medicine works, DDT and malaria make a superb example.
Where are we on the ban of, and I didn't write the name down.
The phthalates?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we're actually very advanced. the major producer of the phthalate-treated plastics, the medical plastics, is this Baxter International, and they've already caved into the political pressure, and other companies that are number 2, 3, 4 in the world are following. Now, if you ask any physician or you ask any surgeon whether flexible plastic is important in his or her work, you will find that if the individual actually thinks about it, it's absolutely critical, because there's no way that the whole medical enterprise can take place without medical plastics. You know, for example, I mentioned before that they're used for oxygen breathing tubes, feeding tubes, cardiac catheters, infant airways, kidney dialysis, intravenous medication, blood transfusion. Imagine if the individual patient has got to be tied to a hospital to get these things and cannot be ambulatory and cannot be living a productive life. What would happen? Recognize what would happen in trauma cases, in automobile accidents, airplane accidents, terrorist attacks. If there is no flexible plastic, the patient cannot have the instantaneous fluids and medications and cannot be stabilized, and therefore most likely will die. So, where are we? Phthalates are being banned, and various hospitals are caving in, just as the manufacturers are caving in. The group called Healthcare Without Harm consists of 41 hospitals and 130 environmental groups. And needless to say, those hospitals that have already signed on to this are stating that they're going to have to charge more for certain procedures. And then the insurance companies are saying, so sorry, there's no money. And what will the end result be? The procedures shall not be done. And then the environmentalists will say, ha-ha, look, we have saved these long-fingered salamanders and those polar bears, and if we had to sacrifice a few thousands or millions of people, well, so what? They were a nasty burden on the environment anyway.
Isn't there anyone standing up?
Well, I know that I can't be alone.
I hope not.
But upon occasion I feel to be very alone. But I'm glad you're there and that our listeners are there. Because really, once people begin to understand this, the humor of it all will be powerful in and of itself as a weapon. That is, when we hear people say, there shall be no plastics used or no flexible plastics used in medicine and surgery because we must protect the testes of infant boys.
Possibly.
Exactly, possibly, because of alligators and rats that have been, whose sex lives perhaps have been interfered with. This is so ludicrous, it is so absolutely preposterous that people will say, we've got to take an action.
Is there any actions being taken that you know of?
At the moment, no.
Wow.
No.
Because when you're talking,
most people don't know about
all the, the times that I've been in hospitals and you see, everybody's got that plastic stuff hooked up to them, and then, many seniors are able to, go to the store and, live their lives because they can take their oxygen with them.
Precisely. And according to sustainable medicine, those who are taking their oxygen to the store and living a productive life really should not be any longer alive, because their lives, in the judgment of sustainable medicine, are not worth living.
Wow.
I should point out, by the way, that phthalates are used elsewhere, not only in medicine. and our food storage bags, our beauty products. There are PVC toys that are softened with phthalates, car seats for kids, shower curtains, wallpaper. All of these in our homes, our businesses, in our industries have phthalates. But those who hate them want to eliminate them.
Wow. It's crazy. That is just crazy.